Welcome to the Expert Roundtable podcast, where we connect frontline clinicians with top thought leaders to facilitate discussion on key issues they face daily.
In today's podcast, we'll focus on paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria. Henceforth, we'll refer to it as PNH, just for simplicity. And we're honored to be joined by Dr. Vahid Afshar-Kairan from MD Anderson, Dr. Carlos de Castro from Duke, and Dr. David Dingley from Mayo Clinic. Dr. Afshar, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, good morning. My name is Vahid Afshar. I'm a physician scientist, a hematologist in MD Anderson Cancer Center. I'm a professor in the section of benign hematology. I am doing translational basic research with the complement system, its interaction with hemostatic factors, and its role in cancer and immunology for past 24 years. So since 2000, when I finished my fellowship.
Wow, yeah, that's a long spell there. We're happy to have you, Dr. De Castro. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Carlos de Castro. I'm a professor of medicine at Duke University. I specialize in bone marrow failure syndromes, including MDS, aplastic anemia, and PNH. And I've been at Duke now for 36 years.
Yeah. All right. And last but not least, Dr. Dingley.
Yes, I'm David Dingley. I'm a professor of medicine at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. Been here on staff for almost 2 decades. One of my interests is PNH. I've done some work on the kinetics of the disease and some quality of life studies related to various therapeutics used in the treatment of PNH.
And the focus question is, how would you characterize the progress that has been made in the last decade? And then what are the milestones that you would highlight? And then where should research efforts be directed to try to improve the treatment of PNH?
In 2004 or 2003, I was presenting an abstract in ASH as far as role of complement in platelet activation. At that time, we showed that when you activate platelet, you activate complement on its surface via P-selecting actin as a C3b binding protein. I really didn't expect at that time, and I was certainly seeing people, audience sometimes really rolling their eyes when you show the complement cascade, because it's sort of very complicated and nobody was interested in it. That was in 2003, 2004. And now in 2024, many pharma companies are competing fiercely for new complement inhibitors, which I think is the evidence that inhibiting of complement system has a lot of clinical impact in the life of PNH patients with atypical HS, and in my opinion, pretty soon in other disorders such as cancer, graft versus host disease, neurological disorders. But to start with, the approval of eculizumab in, I guess, 2007 was a landmark, in my opinion, that there is, first of all, a market for a complement inhibitor, and secondly, it can drastically be helpful to patients and profitable for pharma. The other issue was also a landmark that, well, I thought after development of eculizumab and ravulizumab and C5 inhibitor, that's it. That's the end of story. Nobody else is going to be interested in another complement inhibitors. But when I was approached and discussed the issue of complement inhibitor and found out that a newly built group is interested in inhibiting C3, honestly, at that moment, I said it is going to be a tough battle for a rare disorder, but boy, I was wrong. It is flourishing. You have one after the other complement inhibitors that are coming to market, and I think development of oral complement inhibitors and also development of complement inhibitors that have tissue penetration, measurable tissue penetration, would be a very exciting future for complement research.
We have gone from the first complement inhibitor, which was eculizumab, and through ravulizumab, to now having 5, 6 FDA-approved drugs available. C5 was picked initially as a target because they thought it was the safest point based on kids who are congenitally deficient in various complement factors, and that they only get meningococcal infections, whereas if you start having proximal deficiencies, we see lots of immunocompromise and more infections. And yeah, I agree. When eculizumab came out, it was stunning. Hearing Pete Hillman present at that ASH meeting on his 11 first patients that he treated was nothing more than remarkable, in that all 11 stopped hemolyzing, within a week or two. It was impressive. But we've learned as time went on that no, C5 inhibition has some issues, including the coating of red cells with C3, and in some patients, suboptimal responses due to extravascular hemolysis. And this led investigators to start looking at the proximal system and what we could do. And I don't think we know the right target yet. There's not only these drugs that have been FDA approved, whether they're factor B or factor D or C3, but there's a bunch of companies that are investigating other targets that are out there that may prove to be even better in terms of breakthrough hemolysis and other issues that we see with the proximal inhibitor. So I think the treatment landscape is still changing and will continue to change as time goes on. Vahid is right. There are a whole number of diseases that are probably have some role of complement or complement mediated that are being investigated too, and some of them are much more common than PNH. And if they find a market there, then hopefully the price of these drugs will come down. We're all waiting for that. So far, just because we've discovered new drugs or there are more drugs on the market has not affected the prices as well as we'd like. And so, yes, I think that's an area that we'll have to see what happens in the future.
So I think I'll say this has been a remarkable success story for hematology. Before any complement targeted therapy was available, we had that landmark paper showing median survival 12 years. And as we know, these patients are generally young, in their 30s or their 40s. So they have many years of life to live, and this is being cut short by the disease. And then eculizumab came along. And again, I have to quote the group in Leeds because arguably nobody has more patients than them. And essentially, they showed that with proper complement inhibition therapy, survival approaches that of the normal population, which is, I think, remarkable that these patients are able to live similar to age-matched controls.
The survival story has been a remarkable improvement. It's hard to think of other drugs short of maybe the TKIs for CML where we have made such a major impact on the disease survival and in addition to control.
The concept of C3 coating and extravascular hemolysis was discovered. This was soon after eculizumab. This was reported in 2009. And then that led to the proximal inhibitors. And now we have 5 drugs, right? And some of them work alone, some of them potentially in combination, and there have been various proposals on how to best use these drugs. And of course, it's early days, but certainly patients are doing much better. And from a quality of life perspective, patients are better. And when there is a choice, patients can hopefully receive individualized care because different patients may have different requests, may have different perspectives on how they would like to be treated. And now we can offer them a choice. Hopefully it's an informed choice, but there's clearly a choice on how patients can be treated.
The issue of that it was briefly measured, you can have complement activation end product without really having activation of the complement system. Various proteases can break down C5 and generate C5a. I think that another issue that would be in the site of both basic research and pharma would be the inhibition of complement receptors, such as C5a receptors, because a lot of complement-induced impact on immune system and on cancer cells and on microglial cells, for example, are mediated via complement receptor rather than membrane attack complex. So I think that would be the next frontier in complement research. That rather than inhibiting complement system, you need to target complement activation receptors. Between 2017 and 2021, I think was the time that pegcetacoplan came out. It's 14 years. And now almost every few months, you have a product that at least is in pipeline and complete phase 1 and 2 trials. So it's a very exciting time for complement research.
I think we can all agree about that one. It is a very interesting and exciting time for part of the immune system that we never really even thought about for a long time, and now it's exploding in every field.